Good evening, good afternoon rather. We start with President Cyril Ramaphosa landing in St Petersburg in Russia for the second Russia-Africa Summit. The summit starts tomorrow, it lasts through until Friday. It'll look at a 3-year plan for Russia and Africa in terms of trade relations. The Presidency says the submissions will focus on strengthening cooperation between Russia and African states in several sectors, including security, science, IT and humanitarian support. Our government also says it will use the summit to discuss the program of the upcoming BRICS Heads of State Summit next month. The first Russia-Africa Summit was held in October 2019. Live now to our senior political reporter, Ziyanda Ngcobo in St Petersburg. Ziyanda, good afternoon to you. What's the latest?
Privyet, Stephen, from the city of St Petersburg, Russia, where we're coming to you live from. Of course, tomorrow kicks off the second annual Russia-Africa Summit after the last one was held in Sochi in 2019. A great focus on economic and humanitarian efforts between not only South Africa, but also 49 African delegations have been sent to the summit. In fact, there's a lot going on around the summit. You'll know that the Kremlin, through its spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, has accused the West of trying to sabotage the ongoings of the summit, saying that in particular the US and the French have been threatening African leaders. There's also the issues around mining, security and grain. You'll know about that Russia-Black Sea grain deal that recently collapsed and how Russia has actually offered then to step in so far as the supply of grain is concerned. I tell you what, Stephen, there's a big delegation from South Africa to this summit. I'm talking about the eThekwini Mayor, Mxolisi Kaunda. We understand that the Joburg Mayor was supposed to be here, but also from the African National Congress. And I'm going to speak now to the chairperson of the International Relations Committee, Nomvula Mokonyane, who joins us from St. Petersburg. Privyet, Makonyane. A moment in time to have this summit, especially because of the geopolitical tensions that are surrounding this event. And the ANC has consistently said that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine is an imperialist war.
Thank you very much, Ziyanda, and good afternoon to the viewers. What we are here for is again an affirmation of our commitment as the African National Congress towards promotion of multilateralism, promotion of inclusive growth through an economic trajectory that empowers everybody, especially the developing nations. We're quite proud that we're part of the over 40 delegations that are here in St. Petersburg. We have different meetings. This morning we have part of the sessions that are happening before tomorrow taking place around issues of mining. We have a delegation also that has gone to sessions that are looking at issues of energy supply as well as funding of infrastructure. We will also be having sessions tomorrow with the United Party of Russia, as also it is quite strategic. The issues around food security, peace and stability are going to be quite prime in the deliberations, and good that we're coming from the BRICS summit, the dialogue of political parties, and we're bringing in also that collective effort, because the ANC had invited many other political parties that were with us just last week in Johannesburg. So we're putting everything now into action.
Are you one of the parties, or is our government, to your knowledge, one of those that are somewhat, as the Kremlin has said, been threatened by the US and France? In particular, when we are talking and in current negotiations regarding the AGOA deal and the renewal of such a deal, African countries have seemingly been placed in an awkward position, and so I'm wondering if your presence here has in any way sparked any kind of discomfort, for lack of a better word.
There's continuous engagement with the U.S. Embassy in South Africa. There's also engagements through government. We know that there's been engagements at the political level. Our TG has been to the US now recently. We have had envoys deployed by Comrade President, and we have got the ministers in the economic cluster also engaging. These are ongoing engagements, and our view is that we as the African National Congress would want to be given the opportunity to affirm our position about creation of alternatives and diversification, because multilateralism is all about that, not about dominance. And I think it will be unfortunate that there be any single country that would feel that it has a monopoly or an authority over us. We're here because we have an interest about the growth of Africa. We're here because we want a better world. But also we're here because Russia is not our enemy, and Russia has not walked away from assisting developing nations. And as you say, 2019, and then we had COVID, and we are back here, and all those agreements are going to be a subject of review and engagement, and we should be able to then appreciate the milestones that have been made, particularly on consideration around energy, around agriculture, food security, thirdly around issues of skills transfer and research. Those are quite important. And the last very important thing that also came out of the BRICS political parties dialogue plus is around development of political parties and strengthening them, because any government depends on the strength of political parties, and hence the ANC is here.
I think, though, at a practical level, when we look at the numbers, for an example, the trade relations between Russia and South Africa is almost minimal compared to the countries that you've mentioned, whether it's the US, whether it's the UK or France. So are you saying that you're going to be calling for more trade partnership? Because one of the criticisms that's been leveled against the ANC is that you're prioritizing Russia, and yet at a bargaining level, you're not actually getting much from this loyalty and affiliation.
In fact, what we are promoting is a situation that we would not want to see ourselves in, where we are trapped into just one relationship. We want to diversify. The basket must actually have different opportunities and different benefits, not only for South Africa, but even for those investing countries, because nothing is charitable. There has also been a benefit that goes to the other side. And of course, we have always remained very open as the African National Congress that yes, we know that the EU, we know that the USA are amongst those that are investing more in our country. But we also appreciate that there's a huge potential with the BRICS family, so that then we diversify, we create alternatives, and we do not have anyone who feels that they are indebted to us, because they themselves are dependent on us. If they disinvest out of South Africa, they also stand to lose. But that's not where we are. Where we are now is that let's promote diversity, let's create alternatives, and allow the South and Africa to speak in one voice and interact with anyone. We are nowhere in the skirmishes or the standoff or the attitude of the United States against Russia. We relate with both Russia and Ukraine, including the United States of America and including the European Union. And therefore our commitment as the African National Congress coming here is that there's a huge potential in the Africa-Russia relationship, and there's a bigger potential if Africa gets united and speak in one voice, as the President will also be meeting with his own counterparts from Africa. And tomorrow morning we'll also have a session of the African National Congress with the United Party of Russia, where the President will be there, and we will be joining him in that dialogue.
Plenty more dialogue to take place, I guess, Stephen. And of course, you'll note that President Cyril Ramaphosa, as well as the other leaders who form part of that Africa Peace Initiative, will be taking the opportunity that they have whilst they're still here in St. Petersburg to continue that dialogue and negotiation that is regarding, of course, the ending of that conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So plenty to come from that summit, and as I've already mentioned, a big delegation, not only from South Africa, but other parts of the continent.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, our senior political reporter, on the streets of St. Petersburg this afternoon.